Welcome to Powered by Authenticity. We are week 2 of the Western New York Changemakers series, really reaching out and connecting with those in our community who are making an impact, whether that's through patient care, tech innovation, spearheading their own way in life. We really want to highlight those who are making a difference in our community. And this one is close to my heart. I am so happy to welcome to the podcast Dr. Meghan Underhill, who is the assistant professor at the University of Rochester School of Nursing, first practitioner at Wilmot Cancer Institute. And right out of the gate, I'm going to say, my niece. And I'm so proud. Welcome to the podcast, Meghan.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
How are you tonight?
I'm great. I'm doing great.
Yeah. Nice weather out for the past couple of days, too.
I know. We'll take it. Everything's in bloom.
Everything's in
It's
bloom.
great.
We're lucky. Well, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Meghan Underhill, as you said, and I'm here in Rochester, New York. I'm at the University of Rochester. I've been a nurse for almost 20 years now, and I'm a nurse practitioner, and I focus in hereditary cancer. So I work as a nurse practitioner in hereditary cancer, meaning I work with people who either have familial risk, so cancer runs in their family, or they have a genetic risk for cancer. And as part of that, because that's kind of what I specialize in, I also work and lead research studies around that work as well. So in my role as an assistant professor in the U of R, I both lead research studies and then also train students that are in their doctoral program in research methods and how to, be a nurse scientist. So that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. And you have 2
Oh, yeah.
adorable little guys.
So my real job is that I am a mom to a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old who are lovely in first grade and fourth grade. And so I'm a soccer mom and a piano teacher mom, and I have 2 dogs, and so we keep very busy. So yeah, that's my main job. The rest of it's just my side hustle, but the mom gig is my full-time job.
It's a heck of a side hustle. Well, welcome. I can't wait to talk to you about the work that you're doing. I think it's amazing. And, I don't think there's enough highlight to the amount of research and work that's happening in our local community. Between Rochester and Buffalo, there's a lot that happens in the medical field. And so I'm happy that you're here to help highlight that. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, trick question. It's an icebreaker time. And because we're doing a Western New York series, I wanted to know if you have a favorite wing spot.
So I'm originally from Buffalo, so I really feel strongly about chicken wings. They're important to me and my well-being. And so I love lots of different places, but locally here in Rochester, since I've been here, there's a little spot right down the road from me. And I think part of why I think they're my favorite is not just because they're delicious, but because I can walk there and I know all the people who work there and I see my friends and my kids' teachers. And it's like a lovely little community spot. But it's called the Sheffield. And it's just a little pub down the road, and they have really good chicken wings. And yeah, those would be my favorite right now. It used to be like I would say Duff's or Anchor Bar or any of the Buffalo spots,
Yeah.
but here in Rochester, definitely Sheffield.
All right, Sheffield. I haven't been there before. Ken, producer Ken, how's it going?
It's going good.
Have you been to the Sheffield?
I have not.
Oh.
Not.
Road trip.
Road trip.
Sounds like a plan. Any excuse to go get wings, I'm in.
hmm
All right. What about you, Ken? How are you going to respond to this one this week?
Well, I guess last week I kind of gave my Buffalo answer, so I figure for Rochester area, I think Jeremiah's had really good wings when I was in there.
Oh,
It's
I've never been there.
kind of a go-to.
All right. Jeremiah's.
Got to go to the one on Monroe.
Okay,
Nice. Very good.
great.
I'm
Thanks.
I'm gonna say, who else has a really solid one that I'm not sure many people know about is McPartland's.
I've never heard of that place.
Yeah, so Dave's grandma worked there and his mom actually for a little while until like literally the day that she died. She was peeling potatoes at the counter.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But they're a little hidden up in Buffalo. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll have to, all right, wing tour.
Wing road trip.
We've got the wine trails. Now we've got the wing trails.
There you go. There you go.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, that's fun. We love to hear about wing spots. We have a little spicy ending coming to the show, so we're excited about all of this. All right. So the work that you're doing at the U of R and Wilmot Cancer Institute, describe a little bit about the work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
The beauty of my role is that it's super varied. So my day-to-day looks different depending on what I'm doing. But for the large part, how I spend my time is navigating, sort of leading the research teams that I work with. So my program of research is focused on helping improve how people access cancer genetic testing. And then once they have accessed genetic testing and gotten their testing results, helping them to understand and utilize that information for their own health and for their family's health. And so I largely build digital health focused interventions that help bring information to people in an accessible and easy way, wherever they might be in across the cancer spectrum, from learning about risk to being at end of life, and also supporting their families through that process as well. So I spend most of my time, I have a small team that works with me, and we spend a lot of time thinking about recruitment of people for studies and navigating that process, and data collection and data analysis and data in general. And so that's a big chunk of how I spend my time. And that's directly related to the other way I spend my time, which is I work at the Pluta Cancer Center, which is part of the Wilmot Cancer Institute. And I do work with, like I said, families that have high risk for cancer. So I do everything from the genetic counseling and testing all the way through follow-up and cancer screening recommendations and all of that good stuff, and care coordination. So everything I build in my research is because of things that I've seen not work well in the clinical care that I do, and things that people that I have worked with, like patients and families, have said they wish they had or they wish was better, or just an acknowledgement that we can't even care for everybody who needs this type of care because they can't access it or get to it. So my research and practice really go hand in hand. And then data and research methods are like my thing, and I love it. And so I spend a lot of time then teaching students at different levels about research and research methods, and ethical conduct of research, and what it means to be a nurse scientist and why it's important. So I have students that I mentor who are at different phases of their doctoral work, and then I teach classes as well. So that's how I spend most of my time. So it's really centered on research, but then there's lots of different ways that that plays out, both in clinical care as well as training and educating.
How do you determine which research project you're going to work on next? Like, how does that come forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. Some of it's just luck and what just happens, like you get a group of people together with a lot of ideas, and then you kind of come up with a plan together, and a lot of things need to sort of align for it actually to come to fruition. And it really depends on the study too. If it's a big study that requires a lot of funding to do, it often takes a long time to actually do the work, because you need to establish funding, hire a team, build the intervention, test the intervention. So there's lots of processes. So it kind of depends on where I am in the process as to what we're focused on. But the most important thing that drives how we know what's next is the research question. So if we see a problem in the clinical context and there's not a solution out there, then that drives our next step. Be it, to me, people's report is the best kind of data. So either through surveys or interviews, learning from people who are embedded in this care, because that's the people who are the experts in what is working and what's not working. So we may need to do a descriptive study to learn more about the problem. We might know a lot about the problem and need to build an intervention to address it. We might have already known that there's an effective intervention out there, but it's not getting put into practice. So then we might need to study the implementation. So it really depends on the problem. And that's sort of what drives what we do next. So some of it's luck and sort of what the team is working on, but usually, and always actually, what the team is working on is something that's been established as a gap or a need. So that really drives sort of what we do. And it's, this happens over years. So it's baby steps. You answer one little part to get to the next little part. So That drives it. And also, with the students, it drives, I work on the studies that they work on. So if they're doing their dissertation in a topic, then I support that topic. So that for the student end, that's sort of what drives that. But for my own research, you know, and that's why I love also being a nurse practitioner at the same time, because my research, like I see why I need to do the research when I
Yeah.
go and am in practice. So that's sort of what drives it.
Yeah, I would imagine being able to deliver the patient care and see how closely you're affecting patients with the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, that has to be pretty rewarding.
It is. I mean, even knowing what's the important outcomes, right?
Hmm.
Like what is the thing that we need to change that's important to people? And it's not always like, it is always it's always important to think about treating the cancer or stopping the cancer growing or preventing it from happening. That's a really important outcome, but it's also reducing worry or improving quality of life and helping people live better with information that can be stressful. And so it's like a two-way street of learning from each other in clinical practice, and then you can, I'm lucky to be in a position where then I can apply that to answering research questions, so it's kind of neat.
Yeah, that is cool. And you deal with hereditary cancers.
I do. And so that's, um, ideal. So in my clinical practice, people who have cancer come and see us,
Hmm.
and they either have a type of cancer that genetic testing is indicated, or they have a strong family history of cancer where maybe genetic testing would be helpful. And so that's the care that I give. I do like risk assessment to see, are you at high risk for cancer? And then if you are, based on either personal or family factors or genetic factors, then what should we do differently? Either if you have cancer, how can your clinical team use that information? And often that's driven by the clinical team. The clinical team is asking for this information. So if the patient has cancer, genetic information can help them. But then also thinking, what are your future cancer risks that maybe we weren't thinking about? How about your family? What risks do they have that we should look at differently than what we would for an average risk person,
Hmm.
to try and stop cancer from getting to a stage where it's not treatable or preventing it altogether.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting. So people, can they come in? So like if you've had strong, I know we're gonna have somebody on from the Breast Cancer Coalition next week, but let's say that somebody's had there's a lot of breast cancer that runs in the family line. They could come to you and work with you and do genetic testing and try to figure out what their likelihood and risks are associated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly it. Um, or if somebody has had, there's certain cancers where even if you don't have a family history, genetic testing can be helpful. So like somebody with ovarian cancer, somebody with pancreatic cancer, if that diagnosis happens, genetic testing information could impact the treatments that they're offered. And so we might see people then, even if they don't have a family history, because genetic risk, it's rare. Most cancers happen for reasons that are all sorts of
Mm-hmm.
combined factors, but in some cancers, it's like 5 to 10 to 20% of them are due to known genetic variants. And if we can identify them, then it helps the person with cancer, but then it helps generations to come to know if they have risk for something or not that they can then act on.
Cool. And and this isn't, when we're debriefing, but just something that popped into my head from a tech perspective. Are you guys using anything with like predictive analytic tools and things like that?
So I'm not in my work. So
Yeah.
predictive analytic tools are a big component of cancer care in a lot of different areas.
Yep.
In my own individual work, no, but I can see where it is used for
And
sure.
a school and U of R is, such a wonderful place. I'm sure they're
Yeah,
thinking about that
in
things.
our cardiac oncology, cardiac oncology, but cardiac team, we have a great group of nurse scientists in the School of Nursing actually who are doing that work in cardiac
That's
care.
cool.
So they're looking at a lot of different ways to predict, EKG outcomes, cardiac issues, heart attacks, all things that aren't my area of
Yeah.
expertise in
Yeah.
terms of clinical area, but and we now have new faculty that are looking at AI driven models. So
Yep.
there's a lot of neat stuff, and there's transferability of a lot of that into different types of clinical specialties.
Yeah.
But in my own work, even though I really care about preventing cancer and treating cancer the appropriate way, I'm always been focused on really helping people live well with information and
Yeah.
kind of learning to incorporate risk into their lives, be it improving their health behaviors, just improving their ability to understand that they have risk and live
Yeah,
with that. Sometimes we can't change everything and fix everything, but just living well with it. So I've been sort of focused there,
I
so
love that.
yes, we use technology to give people information, but it's less about sort of changing their clinical course and more about improving their own well-being while in this clinical course.
Yeah, but that's so important, and I think that's one thing that makes someone like yourself different is that there's such the connection that you want to work directly with that patient and have them understand their risks. And it's not, talking to somebody's, back, if you will, but being able to look them in the eye and talk to them and understand their risks and how they can change their lifestyle and change certain factors to be able to, help for better outcomes.
Yeah, and one thing we've learned is that, there's not enough people to do that. There's a shortage of experts, health providers that can actually get to everybody who needs it. And so now I have great collaborators that we're building like relational agents, which are like conversational agents that are avatars really, but are, for decades they've honed this technology to make it interactive and have facial expressions and try to get information to people in a real way that's interactive and iterative and accurate, so that if they can't get to somebody like me, or maybe they speak a language that I don't speak,
Yep.
or my colleagues don't speak, or they live 80 miles away and don't have a car, or they're, unable to read above the sixth grade reading level, or so many different things that are a big chunk of our world. This using technology to sort of help bridge some of that so that people aren't having these barriers to if I can't get to the U of R, then I guess I can't get it. Where that's not right. Everybody
Yeah.
should have access to that highest level of care. And so trying to think of ways to fix that. But also maintain, um, you know, uh, control to make sure that the information is accurate and that you're not learning things that are inappropriate or taking actions that aren't true. So, which is fun, why it's fun to be a clinician scientist, because I sort of get to understand the clinical side, but then also dabble in some of the technology and research side that it's kind of fun to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, but it all connects back to the patient and the human experience. And
Yeah.
I think the other thing is people are unaware that, tools like that even exist in our community, so that if you are in a rural area and you can't get in to, to have an appointment or to, be able to see someone face to face, there are ways to receive the same level of treatment, and it is available in our community.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
One thing I know recently that Wilmot Cancer Institute was provided was the NCI Distinction Award, and talk about ways to help heighten the availability of care. Do you want to share a little bit about what that particular distinction means to the Wilmot Center?
Sure. I mean, it's a wonderful thing for our community. And what it is first, so NCI stands for the National Cancer Institute, and it's a designation that is not um, given lightly. And so what's neat is that it's first and foremost a recognition of just excellence, excellence in care, excellence in research, excellence in community engagement. So there's a lot of criteria that an institution needs to meet in order to receive this designation, which many don't. I think in New York State, there are 8 NCI designated cancer centers, and all but 2 are in New York City. So we are one of 2 outside of New York City, and it's just a really tremendous achievement. And what it brings to our community is NCI designation has a big focus on bringing access to clinical trials and innovation to communities. And so there's an enhanced focus on access to, um, you know, like I said, clinical trials, research innovations, new treatments, just novel things that as they come down the pipe, it's now very clear that Rochester has the capacity to handle and do well and to implement some of these novel, innovative research things. And so we can now bring this to people in our community, which is tremendous. And it leads to improved patient outcomes, improved community outcomes, improved cancer care access, and then even outside of just that, people who are excellent at what they do want to come here and work.
Yeah.
It's a great place to train. It's a great place to live within a community where you know you're working with within an excellent center too, on top of that. So it brings people in as well as brings resources and access to lots of different things in. So it's a really, really awesome thing. Really awesome opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's something like 4% of,
Yep.
it's a really small
Really
percentage.
small. And you know, it was no small feat to get really big, you know, a lot of work by a lot of people who were just plain committed to this community, really, you know,
Yeah.
and just improving access to really high quality care.
Yeah. I think something that you mentioned there, it's not only the availability of care for patients, but it's actually people wanting to come and work in our community, wanting to come and, be able to work alongside of obviously something that's been designated as as a center of excellence and a way to help grow them. And, I don't think there's enough spotlight on how much that brings into the community, how much that brings care to people who may not be able to have it, because now we have additional providers who've come into our space to be able to deliver care to those who may not have been able to get it otherwise. So what you said there is so important.
It is, and it brings diversity of idea and thought and training and experience. It just, there's a lot to it. And so I think that, that I've been here since 2020. Wilmot and the U of R in general has always been known for excellence, right? But this harnesses things together in a way that really just articulates it and demonstrates a commitment, a long-term commitment to really improving cancer care outcomes. And cancer care outcomes in this region aren't great, really. Like, we have a high level of people who smoke. We have an aging population, which comes with its own sort of risks and additional challenges. And so, we need places like this to meet those challenges. And that's sort of what this NCI commitment shows, is that that's what the Wilmot wants to do, is really have that commitment to the larger community. And the community is huge. It's not just Monroe County or just the city of Rochester. It goes out, there's centers in Dansville and centers in just all over. The catchment area is quite wide. And so it's a commitment to the community as a whole.
Yeah.
It's like all the way down to the Pennsylvania border,
Yeah. A question that just popped into my head. How do you guys partner with like any of the Buffalo region hospitals? Is there like a synergy there where if someone it needs specialized care that Wilmot has, there's a transfer that can occur of care for a patient?
I can't speak to that really well,
Yeah.
but I can say that I know, at least, from a research side, there is collaboration between Roswell and between Buffalo, and a lot of care coordination happens, not just with the Buffalo side, but with centers like Bassett Healthcare System. I know that there's a lot of coordination with. So yes, I think that the commitment is to get the best patient care, and whatever that might be, and meet people where they're at, or maybe find centers, because I know like there's a center in Batavia that's a U of R center that delivers really excellent care in a community that's not so far away from Rochester. But if you're if there's a lot of reasons why it is too far to go for a daily cancer treatment or a daily, bringing this care into communities, and then collaborating with community providers to make sure people get everything that they need. So there is a commitment to that. I don't know about the different like transfer of care relationships and all that, but it's a huge network, and it's very collaborative,
Yeah.
And I see it on the research side for sure.
Oh, I'm sure you probably really see it on the research side. I having worked at Roswell a little bit, had a little bit of kind of glimmer what they did across the region. So I can just imagine the dedication that, putting Wilmot and another cancer and oncology focus center together, just the ideas and the way that you're able to approach research has got to be phenomenal.
Yeah. And training too. The opportunities for our students and our trainees, both clinical trainees and research trainees. It's really amazing.
Yeah. And the Wilmot facility here in Batavia is, I've heard great things.
Mhm.
And you said something about our population as far as demographics go. Batavia is one of those that does have an older population of community members, and just to be able to receive top level care where they don't have to drive is it's actually a relief. Like, it takes some of the stress off of an already stressful situation.
Yeah, and in the School of Nursing, we have a lot of focus on caregiver related research as well.
Yeah,
And so, cancer impacts everybody, not just the person with it, it's the
yeah.
whole family. And so that can be a big barrier for family too. And so that can be really useful. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I love that people, I think, forget the emotional drain on those that are around them during that time. So yeah, it's crazy. Um, how do you work with other like advocacy or support groups? Like I said, we're going to have the Breast Cancer Coalition of Rochester on next week. Do you get a chance to work with any of those other types of support
Yeah,
groups?
and so both directly and indirectly.
Yeah.
So our and a lot of this is through the School of Nursing or Wilmot. So the Wilmot itself has huge community outreach groups, and so our clinical center plus the School of Nursing works closely with community outreach and engagement, where they do fundraising events or educational events. So we go to the Grease Ridge Mall with a big blow up colon and talk about colon cancer prevention, or we were at a Muck Dogs game once for Cancer Survivors Day, talking about genetics and prevention and the importance of being active. And so that group, you know, is everywhere. They go all over, they drive everywhere to do these events. And so that's one of the main ones I personally have been involved in. It is within the U of R, but it's like a whole network. But we also work outside of the U of R. There's an organization called Strollin' for the Colon, and it's focused on people who have something called Lynch syndrome, which is a hereditary colon cancer syndrome. So our group has worked with them for years, and so now I get to join in on the fun, and they do a lot of great community outreach events. And also, some research funding and things too. So they're really connected to people that have Lynch syndrome to help support the care that's given. Our clinical team received some funding from them to help create a video to just really educate people who have risk for Lynch syndrome, because there's just so much you need to know, and you can say it in a clinical encounter, but most of it goes over
Yeah.
people's heads. And so having just really good, useful educational tools that can be accessed from anywhere. So that's a great partnership. And then I have a great student who's about to graduate. She's actually defending her dissertation on my birthday. It's like my
Oh,
best birthday
yay.
gift. Her name's Yuri Choi. She's a PhD student here at the University of Rochester, and she studies the importance of physical activity in adolescent and young adult cancer survivors. And she'll be actually working and training after this at the Wilmot in a postdoc fellowship, which is really exciting for her. But she's on the board and a big part of something called 1330, which is for young adult and adolescent cancer survivors. And they're based in Rochester. I think there's also a Syracuse location, but they really have a lot of stuff too. And a lot of our investigators are supporting there. So there's a lot of great resources, and there's more. I mean, I'm part of the Genesee Valley Oncology Nursing Society, and we work with the American Cancer Society and the larger Oncology Nursing
Yeah.
Society. So there's so many great community, patient and family oriented resources out there. Um, I always say, so I worked outside of Rochester for a long time before I came back here. And it's like the world's best kept secret. Like, there's just such great stuff.
Yeah.
And great advocacy work happening that's just like kept within this boundary that the world doesn't know about, and it should know. So there's just lots of great resources, but those are the ones that I've had the ability so far to work with in a different capacities.
That's amazing. I'm gonna have to. You said it's 1330.
Yeah, I can send you like the link
Yeah.
to their organization. They're amazing. They do lots of local stuff. Like, they had a scavenger hunt that they set up on Monroe Ave for Party in the Park, or I don't know if it's called Party in the Park, whatever the Park Ave Fest is.
Okay.
And then you had to learn about adolescent and young adult cancers, because um, it's a really particularly important organization. Not all organizations are important, but adolescent and young adult cancer is on the rise. And so and there's not a lot of tailored support for people who had cancer in their teens or 20s and now are living into adulthood. And like, I'm an adult who's 40, but I'm different from others who are
Yeah.
40. I have different needs. And so this is a a tailored group for them. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome to hear. Yeah. Elizabeth's best friend, who she calls her platonic spouse, was diagnosed with cancer, brain cancer, on October 31st, and he got the 100% cancer-free
Oh, yeah.
message on Monday.
Okay.
But
That's amazing.
What he went through is just so much, and so it's good to know that there's organizations out there that are focusing on that population.
Send it to, because he might find some help there, because it doesn't end, you get that 100% cancer free, but oftentimes people feel fear and worry with every scan, or we all get headaches, and even after we have brain cancer we get a headache, and what does that headache mean? And there's just sort of a different lens to see the world and how we're living in it. And so it's an organization of people who will understand that. So it can even just be a social network, of others who get it.
Yeah, awesome. I will share that with him, because it's, I'm sure, a long road for him as well. So, awesome. Well, okay, so we're a global podcast. So right now, we want the world to be highlighted and see the work that Wilmot is doing. So,
and the University of Rochester School of Nursing.
University of Rochester
who are really, close collaborators. So the Wilmot, the Cancer Control and Prevention Group at the Wilmot and the School of Nursing at the University of Rochester are really close collaborators and have been for decades. And so the work is really amazing how it happens, just so you wouldn't realize. I mean, they're not two separate institutes, it's all one university.
Yeah.
But it's such, collaboration and close, connection that it's truly amazing. So we're lucky to have, that connection and those resources.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is there anything, like one particular item you'd like to share with the listeners, just in relationship to that special relationship between the School of Nursing and Wilmot?
Well, I think that, maybe one thing is, feel proud that you are part of this community and that you live here, and that you are within, that you are part of a really important kind of community resource, and that you have an opportunity to engage and learn and grow in your own kind of health and health journey, just by accessing these resources that are now available to you and have been available to you. And that, don't keep it a secret how great Rochester is, and the University of Rochester and the people who live and work here, because I do think that oftentimes people, sorry, I got startled from something behind me. Oftentimes people keep, we talk about things like it's cold or it rains, and we forget to talk about how there's just really world-class work happening, and we can't forget that.
Yeah, awesome. All right, and how about from just yourself, your personal perspective? Any one big thing you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, I guess that all of this was made possible because I became a nurse many, many years ago. And that becoming a nurse has been one of the greatest things I've been able to do. And even at the core of all the other stuff I get to call myself, the first thing I define myself as a nurse. So, if anybody is ever interested in nursing or wants to know more about what that means and all the different opportunities, I'm a person to connect with. But I think, you're never just one thing. And so, and you never just can do one thing. And the beauty of nursing anyways has been that you either, you like it or you don't, but then there's so many other opportunities to try and be and grow into something new, even within the profession. So I guess that's it. I guess that's my takeaway.
Aw, that's awesome. I remember when you graduated from nursing school.
Yeah, many moons ago.
Many moons ago.
Yeah.
Aw.
It's funny how much time. I mean, not that much time, but a lot of time altogether,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I happen to just think that you are making such a difference in our local community in the work that you're doing through all of it: research, direct patient care, caregiver support, and making sure that everybody knows that these are resources that are available in our community is something that we need more of, and we need people to realize that we may have a lot of snow and we may get cold weather, but the distinction and the level of care that can be provided in our communities is bar none, and is now, nationally recognized amongst the top 4 in the country. And it's right here in our backyard. And that, if you're suffering or you're not sure where to go, or you've got something that's scary, that this is actually a great location to come to and speak to some really highly versed caregivers and, really leaders as far as cancer patient just care and outcomes. So thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and I think I'll add one more thing to what you said. It's also a great place to come and train. So if you want to advance your career, if you're a nurse and you're like, I want to do more, there's so many opportunities here to grow and learn. So, it's just a good place to be. And we don't get as much snow anymore. We have lots of flowers.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, even like our community colleges, if you can't
Yes.
have the you're concerned about committing to a 4-year program, or you can't quite get into a 4-year program, or you're concerned about finances associated with that, there's some great community level colleges in our local community that you can start with and then transfer over to like a U of R. And
often then get it paid for once you're working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Yep.
I think that's a great, that's a great one to add, because we do have great schools here too, from the community, starting right at the community level. So awesome.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everything. I appreciate it. This has been wonderful. Again, spotlighting people who are making a change that you may not realize there's so much impact in our local community. And Meghan, you are definitely one of those. So thank
you.
you.
And so are you.
So
are you. Look at you.
Aw.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. And producer Ken, thanks for being here tonight.
You got
Thanks,
it.
Producer Ken.
All right. And the 3 of us will be together very soon. Actually, Sunday's the Lilac Run.
Here's the Lilac. And right down the street is the Sheffield.
Oh, well,
Just saying.
we'll run for
That
wings.
sounds like an idea.
I don't know that they'll be open at 8 a.m., or 9 a.m., or Ken will be done at 7:40 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
My race is an hour later than yours, actually. I'm doing the 10K.
You're doing the 10K. Okay. Yeah.
I'm doing fine.
Well, for us mere mortals, we'll be done.
And then we'll be back together the following weekend at the Buffalo half marathon. Hopefully,
It'll be fun.
Yep, it's going to be a great time. So I look forward to getting to run together again. We'll have to recreate our picture from Toronto last year.
Yeah. Only not recreate Toronto.
No,
We'll
not
just recreate the picture.
Exactly. Well, again, thank you for being here. I also want to give a shout out to GoArt. As you heard in episode 1 of our Changemaker series, this is a facility that is available to the community through resources of grants and many members of our community providing donations and just being active in the arts community. They allow us to use the podcast studio through one of those grants, and we're extremely grateful to them each and every week. And again, thank you, Meghan. I loved hearing
You're
about the
welcome.
work
Thanks
you're
for
doing.
asking me.
Thank you, and have a good night.